Hey everyone, prepping for those software engineer interviews, I bet they can be pretty intense.
Yeah, for sure.
You've probably got your hands on the Algo Academy guide tackling behavioral interview questions. Smart move. So let's really take a deep dive into this thing and see what gems we can pull out.
You know what I find fascinating about this guide is how it kind of reframes these behavioral questions.
Oh.
Like, it's not just about showing you're a team player or whatever.
Mm.
It's about proving your technical skills through these stories you tell.
Okay, I'm intrigued now. How does that work? They've already got my resume, right?
Right, but think of it this way. A resume is just like a list, what you've done. These questions dig into the how, the thought process, the challenges you faced,
Mm.
especially for software engineers. You know, employers want to see that problem solving, adaptability,
Mm.
stuff that's not always clear just from bullet points.
So it's less about having the perfect answer, more about showing how I think.
Exactly. The guide actually debunks that myth right off the bat. There are no right or wrong answers. It's all about your approach. They highlight these four key traits every answer should touch on: problem solving, adaptability, teamwork, and communication.
Those do seem pretty crucial, especially in a field that's constantly changing, like software.
Absolutely. For software engineers, these are non-negotiables.
Okay, I'm with you. So let's break these down a bit.
Yeah.
When they're asking about problem solving, what are they really trying to figure out?
Well, it goes deeper than just, fixing bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Can you analyze a situation, break down those complex problems, come up with clever solutions? And it's not even just about the technical fix itself. It's about your approach, your resilience when things get tough.
I see. So even if it was a stressful situation, you want to highlight how you worked through it and got that positive result.
Yeah. Like imagine they ask about debugging some critical issue right before a major release. That's prime real estate to show off not just your coding skills, but also how you stay calm and think clearly when the pressure's on.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, what about adaptability? That feels huge in tech.
Huge. Think about how fast things change in software development. New languages pop up, frameworks evolve, projects can totally pivot out of nowhere. An engineer who can't roll with those punches is going to get left behind.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The guide even gives an example question about learning a new language or framework, something I'm sure you've experienced firsthand.
Oh, tons of times. I remember when I first had to learn. Actually, you know what? That's a story for another time. But I see what you mean. Being able to talk about those learning curves is gold.
Definitely.
Okay, what about teamwork? Anything surprising there?
It goes way deeper than that classic line, I work well with others. Software development is collaborative by nature. So you got to show off those specific skills that make you a valuable team member, like communication, being a good listener, knowing how to handle conflicts. Yeah. Think about a time you had a disagreement on a project. How'd you navigate that? Did you really listen to different perspectives, help find a compromise, and keep things professional? Interviewers pick up on that stuff.
Yeah, that's way more insightful than just saying, I'm a team player.
Yeah.
What about communication in general? It feels like that's crucial in any job, but especially in tech.
Absolutely. The guide really hammers that home. The emphasis is on clear communication, especially explaining technical stuff to people who aren't technical.
Oh, man. That's something I'm always working on.
Think about a time you had to explain, I don't know, some complex concept to someone who wasn't a developer, maybe a product manager, or even a client. How'd you break it down? Use analogies, visuals, anything like that. This is a seriously valuable skill.
Right, because it can prevent a lot of headaches down the line if everyone's on the same page.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got these four core traits they're looking for. But how do we actually structure our answers to highlight them effectively? That's where the STAR method comes in, right?
You got it. The STAR method is like your storytelling framework. It stands for situation, task, action, and result.
All right, I've heard of STAR before, but honestly, it always felt kind of, I don't know, gimmicky to me.
It's not about being all formulaic. It's just
Yeah.
about making sure your story has those key elements. Think of it like this. You're setting the scene with the situation, highlighting your role with the task, then going into the steps you took with the action.
Okay.
And then bam, you hit it with that positive result. Makes your answers way more memorable and shows your impact.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see how that structure could be really helpful. Could we maybe walk through a concrete example? Use that debugging scenario we talked about earlier?
Absolutely. So let's say the interviewer says, tell me about a time you faced a challenging technical problem. You could start by setting the situation right. We were just about to release a major feature, but at the last minute, we discovered a critical bug.
Oh, that's never fun.
Then you define your task. My responsibility was to identify the root cause and get a fix out, ASAP. This is where you get to show off that technical expertise, explain the debugging process, the tools you used, any creative solutions you came up with.
Okay.
And finally, you wrap up with the result. I was able to isolate the bug, implement the fix, and we launched the feature on time with minimal disruption. See how that naturally highlights your problem-solving skills and your ability to work under pressure.
That's a great example. It makes me realize I've probably been rambling on in my answers, not really hitting those key points. So the guide also talks about some specific scenarios, like tight deadlines, team conflicts, leadership. How does STAR apply to those?
Oh, those scenarios are golden opportunities.
Yeah.
Let's take tight deadlines. For example, instead of just saying you're good at managing time, use STAR to tell a story. Maybe describe a project where you used agile methodologies like Scrum sprints to break down the work and deliver everything on time.
I see.
You could even mention specific project management tools you used like Jira or Trello to stay organized.
So it's about getting granular with it, even mentioning the tools to really paint that picture.
Exactly. Now, for team conflicts, remember, disagreements happen. It's all about showing how you handle those situations constructively.
Right.
Use STAR to describe a time you helped find a compromise. Maybe you used active listening to really understand different perspectives and came up with a solution everyone could get behind.
I like that because it shows you can navigate those tricky conversations and you're committed to the team's success.
Now, leadership doesn't always mean you had a fancy title, right? It's about taking initiative, motivating others, pushing projects forward.
Yeah, totally.
Think about a time you maybe mentored a junior developer or came up with a creative solution that got everyone excited, or even spearheaded some process improvement. Those are all examples of leadership in action.
I love that. It's about showcasing those leadership qualities, even if you weren't officially the boss.
Right. And what about managing multiple projects? That's a constant for most software engineers.
It is, for sure.
So it's all about showcasing those organizational skills and your ability to prioritize effectively.
Yeah.
Did you use a Kanban board to visualize your workflow? Did you have those daily stand-up meetings to keep everyone on the same page? Maybe you had a system for color-coding your calendar or used a task management app to stay on top of everything.
That makes sense.
Again, use STAR to tell a story that shows you can juggle multiple things without dropping the ball.
So we're really seeing how STAR can be applied across all these different scenarios to make your answers more structured and impactful.
All right.
Now, I know this listener is all about staying ahead of the curve, This field is always changing. The guide talks a lot about adaptability, especially when it comes to new technologies. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it feels like every week there's something new to learn.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to showcase that adaptability in an interview setting?
Right.
It's about highlighting your learning process and how you take on new challenges. Remember that example question about learning a new language or framework. Don't just say, oh yeah, I learned it. Tell the story. Describe the resources you used, the hurdles you had to overcome, how you actually applied that knowledge to a real project.
I see. So show, don't tell.
Exactly. Maybe you even contributed to open source docs or helped onboard some teammates. That really shows initiative.
Okay, so go beyond just listing those technologies on the resume and actually demonstrate that you can learn and adapt quickly.
You got it. And don't forget about those unexpected project changes. Software development is rarely straightforward, right? Being able to adjust to new requirements, embrace new info, stay flexible. That's key.
Oh, for sure. I've definitely had my fair share of projects that took a hard left turn midway through.
Exactly. Maybe the scope changed drastically or some new tech came along. How did you handle that? Did you have to refactor a bunch of code, learn a new API, or completely rethink your approach? Those are the stories that really make you stand out.
It's about turning those potential setbacks into opportunities to showcase your strengths.
Right. And speaking of communication, the guide also talks about explaining technical concepts to non-technical people. That's the skill I'm always working on myself.
Oh, tell me about it.
Think about a time you had to explain, I don't know, a complex algorithm to a product manager or a technical issue to a client who maybe didn't have that deep technical background. How'd you approach that?
Good question.
Did you use analogies?
Yeah.
Create some visuals? Find that balance of simplifying the language without dumbing it down too much.
Right. It's about meeting them where they're at.
Exactly. And let's not forget about active listening, which we touched on earlier. It's more than just hearing the words. It's about truly understanding their perspective, asking clarifying questions, being present in that conversation.
Active listening is so important. Yeah. It shows you value other people's input, and you're really trying to find that best solution, even if it means challenging your own assumptions.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. But even with all this prep, interviews can still be nerve-wracking. Any advice on how to manage those pre-interview jitters?
Preparation is key. You're already doing that by digging into this guide and really thinking through these scenarios.
That's true.
But it also helps to research the company, practice your answers out loud, maybe even do some mock interviews with a friend or a mentor.
Like anything else, the more you practice, the more confident you'll feel.
Right. And don't forget about taking care of yourself.
Sure.
Get a good night's sleep, eat a healthy meal, maybe do some deep breathing, meditation, or listen to some calming music, whatever works for you.
It's easy to get so caught up in the prep that we forget the basics.
Definitely. And the guide also talks about the power of visualization.
Oh, yeah.
It's more than just positive thinking, you know? It's about vividly picturing yourself succeeding in that interview. Imagine walking into the room with confidence, answering those questions thoughtfully, having a real conversation with the interviewers.
It's like giving yourself a mental pep talk before the big game.
Exactly. When you repeatedly visualize success, you're training your brain to believe it's possible, and that can have a huge impact on your performance.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me in the guide was how they emphasized learning from past interviews.
Oh, that's so important and often overlooked. Whether you get the job or not, every interview is a learning experience. Take some time to reflect on what went well, what could be improved, what you'll do differently next time.
I like that, turning those interviews into valuable feedback, no matter the outcome.
Right. Did you feel confident in certain areas? Were there any questions that stumped you? Did you showcase your skills and experience effectively? By analyzing your performance, you can identify your strengths and weaknesses and just keep getting better. That commitment to continuous learning is something employers really value.
It makes you a more well-rounded candidate.
Absolutely.
Eh.
So we've really dug deep into this guide today, haven't we? We've explored what behavioral questions are truly getting at, learned how to master that STAR method, and even talked about how to handle those inevitable interview nerves.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I've got a whole new toolkit now. I think the big takeaway here is that these behavioral questions are a chance to shine. It's about telling your story, showcasing your skills, and passion for software engineering.
You got it. And remember, you've got the talent, you've got the drive, and now you've got the strategies to really ace those interviews. Go out there and show them what you're made of. We're rooting for you.
The best of luck, everyone. We'll catch you in the next deep dive.